Hey everybody, my name is Sydney and I'm the founder of EMEKA Suits, and welcome to my studio, aka my living room. Normal thing during Corona times. And I'm grateful that you're here with me today and that I can tell you a little bit about my brand and how this all came to happen. And yeah, thanks for being here. And later on we're gonna have some music and listen to a friend of mine singing some R&B songs for you, so stay tuned for that. Because the story of my brand goes back 2 years ago when I was in Nigeria. Together with my cousin, I was sitting there, on the porch of my auntie's place. And my cousin is a very educated man, very smart, very driven. And he told me about his hardships of finding work and finding the right possibilities for young people in Nigeria and in Africa in general. So as we were talking about this and the evening progressed, we came up with the idea of okay, what if we are the people who start to create more possibilities on the continent itself? What if we try to create a brand or some sort of company that provides new possibilities and jobs for people? So that's where the idea originally started, me and my cousin at my auntie's place. And we went along with that and we started to make these button-up t-shirts or shirts. And we made them from these typical African wax prints. We bought them from textile sellers locally and we employed some local tailors in Nigeria. And we made the first shirts. And I took these shirts back with me to Berlin and I was selling them on flea markets here. And as I was doing some more research of where these fabrics actually come from, I started to see that they are not really sustainable and also that they are not really native to the African continent. The story behind these Ankara fabrics is actually quite interesting because they are mainly made by a Dutch company and also a Chinese company. But the Dutch is because they were colonizing Indonesia, and Indonesians had this traditional way of creating patterns on fabrics with wax. So they took this way of manipulating the fabric and they industrialized it, and then the Dutch were starting to make these fabrics in big quantities and selling them mainly to Africa. And that's where these fabrics come from. What we know now as like the typical African fabric is actually, most of this comes from a Dutch company made in Indonesia originally. So I was like, okay, this is not really what we want. We want to create something that's empowering to African people. We want to create something that's sustainable, and that was not the right product. So it took us some time. We had to fail hard and came to understand that this is not going to work. So we took some time away from it. And a year later, we came up with a new idea, which was a completely different thing. We were looking at okay, what is native to the West African countries? And we came up that actually cacao beans are like the main export goods, one of the main export goods. So we started to make chocolate in Africa and try to sell it in Europe. That's another story. I don't want to get into that because that moves away from the fashion. But at some point, this company was actually a chocolate company, and we were making chocolate made in Africa, which failed big time. But we tried and we learned. So another year went by, and that was last year, 2020, when I went to Kenya to go to an artist residency there. And I was not there because of fashion or anything related to that. I was just there to create music actually and work with kids in the neighboring village. I was giving them rap workshops and stuff like that. And that was a good time. And on this farm, on this artist residency, which was on a farm, I got to know this guy who taught me about a Tailor Collective that was in the neighboring village. And they were incredibly talented tailors who can make you anything from all sorts of fabrics. So I was like, whoa, this sounds interesting. What is that about? So the next day I packed my bag and I went over to the neighboring village, and I was trying to find these tailors, and it was really difficult because it was all like dirty dirt roads and no street signs and stuff. And I ended up at this beautiful house with 5 tailors and this woman who was running it, and they were doing amazing stuff, really, really amazing stuff. So I got to talk with them for a little bit, and they took me to a market where they sell second-hand clothing and second-hand fabrics, and it's called the Mitumba market. Mitumba is basically the Swahili word for second-hand. That's how they use it. These markets are filled with second-hand clothing and fabrics from the global north. Huge mountains of old shirts, old jeans, old everything you will find there. And it's quite an astonishing view if you first see it. The story behind it is also quite interesting because those are the fabrics that people in the global north, in Europe and America, put into these textile bins, these donation bins. What happens with these fabrics is that firstly, these fabrics go through a sorting mechanism where the good quality fabrics stay in Europe and get resold, and the lower quality fabrics get shipped to Africa. And there they won't be donated or just distributed for free. No, it's a whole business, obviously. Like, who's going to pay to ship this whole thing over there, right? So they are selling these second-hand clothing to local vendors in Africa, who then again sell these fabrics and clothing on these markets. And this hand-me-down trade has several side effects to it. On the one hand, these second-hand fabrics flood the African market, which leads to for the African textile industry to be crippled because they cannot grow themselves. Secondly, a lot of local tailors in Africa lose their jobs because people don't buy locally made products anymore. Everyone just goes to these cheap second-hand markets to buy the old stuff from the global north. And thirdly, and maybe one of the most devastating things, is that half of the fabrics that arrive there are in such bad quality that they get dumped straight away. So they end up on landfill, or they just end up in the environment, because most of these countries don't have the necessary waste management infrastructures in line to deal with such vast amounts of old clothing, so that they just dump it in the environment, polluting the waters and just creating a lot of environmental impact. So in the end, what is happening is that the global north dumps all of their old clothes on the global south, mainly Africa, and people there are just like flooded by this, by tons of old clothing, and it has a whole impact on the industry and on the environment. We go back. I am in Kenya. I am with these tailors in this tiny village, and they show me to these markets, and they tell me the story behind it. And as we are on this market, I find an old curtain fabric, like a very flowery pattern, kind of like what you see here in the back of me. And I asked them if they can make me a suit out of it, basically just because I like suits. And they were like, yeah, sure, we can make you a suit from it. So I drew them a little thing, and I showed them some pictures. I was like, okay, this is how I would like the suit to be. And a few days later, they made me this amazing suit. And I was like, wow, this is something here. So I took a picture of it, and I just posted it on my Instagram. And I was like, yo, who wants to have a cool ass, unique suit made in Africa and like upcycled and stuff like this? And a bunch of people flooded my inbox, and they were like, bring me one, and like, this is my size, and this looks so cool, blah, blah, blah. So I ended up just stuffing my suitcase full with these curtain suits and coming back to Berlin. And that's basically how this whole brand really started. This is where we finally found the product that was alongside of the philosophy that we had, and alongside of like empowering the African industries and African workers with actual possibilities for jobs. So that was very beautiful to see the loop getting close between me sitting on the porch with my cousin thinking of how we can provide jobs for the local economy, to like now where, you know, I'm actually paying these tailors good money to make these amazing suits from upcycled materials, and just like having a product to this vague idea at the beginning. And yeah, once I was here, I started to distribute these suits, and I saw how many people got interested just in the story and in the narrative, and they wanted to be part of it. They wanted to have one for their wedding, they wanted to have one for their music video, for all kinds of things. And I noticed that this was much more than about clothing. This turned out to be much more about values and about a story that is creating something meaningful for everyone who is involved in it. So that's why I came to learn that this is not really just a clothing brand, it's more of like a lifestyle brand where people feel attracted to it, or it resonates with them, that there are certain values to this, and that they are not just helping you know, places where this work is highly appreciated, but also that they are wearing something that stands for something, you know. So that's basically the story behind my brand. And again, since this is much more about people than about just the fashion, I invited my good friend K.Zia to come over and wear these suits and play some songs and just like marinate you in some more goodness and some more good vibes. So thank you so much for joining me here, and yeah, see you soon.
How we go from one place to another, trying to fit the frames, cutting out the shapes based on each other. I'm feeling how we're growing, right into our stories, seeing how we didn't know. Our biggest challenge was our own fear, but now we're done holding back, seeing back. Now we're found, there's no turning back. Je trace mon chemin, yeah, yeah. Je vis ma vie déterre par tous mes moyens, yeah. Je prends le temps de créer mon mood, yeah, yeah. Je prends le temps de créer mon mood, yeah. Je prends le temps de créer mon mood, yeah. Who would know that I'd be the one singing about self-love? We shed our tone, yeah, we choose the wave, we wanna ride, but now we're done holding back, seeing black now, yeah, yeah. There's no turning back, je trace mon chemin, yeah, yeah. Je vis ma vie déterre par tous mes moyens, yeah, yeah. Je prends le temps de créer mon mood, yeah, yeah. Je prends le temps de créer mon mood, créer mon mood, yeah, yeah. Je prends le temps de créer mon mood, yeah, yeah. Je prends le temps de créer mon mood, yeah. My name is K.Zia. Thank you for listening. This is Boton that's accompanying me today. Thank you, Sydney, for having us in your beautiful coziness over here. We're gonna be sharing 2 more songs, chill acoustic vibe. Listen. Fragrance of sunny weather, sun-kissed you walking on your way. Diamond born under pressure. You carry stories on your face, carry life around your waist. She a cocoa, she a butter, she a lover, she a fighter. So love her. Looking at life through a broken mirror, wishing the fake up was a little clearer. You're looking for the pieces to replace, but it's the world that's gotta learn to embrace. Sister, sister, just keep standing for the colors of fusion. The more you love them, the more you'll blossom. Baby, it'll just be fine. Sister, sister, just keep standing for the colors of fusion. The more you grow, the more you'll glow. Baby, it will just be fine. Always holding it together, surrounded by those who can relate. With every mile you go extra, just to set the record straight. Feminine they wanna simulate, original they wanna simulate. But you the wave, you the water, you the bread and the butter. Looking at life through a broken mirror, wishing the fake up was a little clearer. You're looking for the pieces to replace it, but it's the world that's gotta learn to embrace. Brother, brother, just keep standing for the colors of fusion. The more you love them, the more you'll blossom. Baby, it will just be fine. Brother, brother, just keep standing for the colors of fusion. The more you grow, the more you'll glow. Baby, it will just be fine. 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 Yeah, baby, it will just be fine. Yeah. Baby, it will just be fine. Yeah. Baby, it will just be fine. Baby, it will just be fine. Yeah. That was Glow.
Yeah.
And then on to the next one, which is Type of Girl. This one's always like a very special one for me because it's the first song I wrote that I liked of myself, and so consequently also the first one I released. So it's always like, that one. Type of Girl. Let's go. We got this.
I'm not the one who will control your lifestyle. Ain't gon' bother you with
type of girl. Yeah. I'm the one you wanna show to your family. I'm the one who'll make everything right. I'm the one who'll always want you to be standing with me under the spotlight, yeah. 'Cause a one and a one makes a full two. I ain't looking for another half, my spit already full. Now I got a strong opinion that they hate and clash, but I wanna hear your visions while we chillin', hit our stash. And you'll be right some of the times, but I'll be right most of the time, yeah. Now I'm feeling it's alright. Don't you be scared, I'm sweet and chilled. I don't bite, but still be prepared. 'Cause I'm the type of them you never get, boy. I'm the type who'll always be on board for adventure, for ride, for food and games, but not the type with number and names. 'Cause I'm the type of girl, yeah. The type of girl. Yeah. I'm the type of girl. I'm the type of girl. Type of girl. My name is K.Zia. This is Boti. Thanks for listening to us.